Apple was one of the greatest companies in the world.
I'm Steve Jobs from Apple Computer. We're very glad to be here tonight.
This is iMac. The whole thing is translucent. You can see into it. It's so cool. It holds 1,000 songs. And it goes right in my pocket. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? And we are calling it iPhone.
They made some of the most innovative products ever. But then, what happened to all this innovation? There isn't a single innovation that came from Apple in the last 10 years. So, why did Apple stop? They can literally hire the best designers in the world. They have more than enough resources to put into their R&D. Then why does every single iPhone look exactly the same year after year? And the only real innovation that came out of Apple in the last decade was this. And it was literally called the worst product of the decade. So, what really happened to Apple? I am Varun Guntur and you're watching Breakdown by TBH. To understand what really happened to Apple, let's first go back in time to the year 1920. Back then, there weren't any gadgets or devices like mobile phones or smartwatches. The most important product was the car. Henry Ford had set up the world's first assembly line and started mass manufacturing Ford cars, making it extremely affordable for everyone to have one. Another automobile company who was also doing this was General Motors. Ford was the most valuable company back then as their cars were extremely well made and highly reliable. These Ford cars were in fact so reliable that you buy a car once and you won't need another car for 10 years. General Motors, on the other hand, were taking heavy losses. In a desperate attempt, they were looking to raise some funding from anyone who would be willing to invest. DuPont, who were one of the biggest paint companies in the US at that time, decided to invest and acquired a majority control in General Motors. The president of DuPont, Mr. Pierre S. DuPont, took over as the CEO of General Motors. See, back then the cars used to come in one single color, and that used to be black, mainly because it was the easiest and cheapest for mass manufacturing. In the early 1920s, GM collaborated with the R&D team of DuPont Chemical Company to develop Duco, a quick-drying nitrocellulose lacquer. And the R&D team at DuPont figured out how to electroplate and paint a car for the very first time. And with that, General Motors could manufacture a car in almost any color. General Motors flipped the game completely. Under their new CEO, Alfred Sloan, every single year they would introduce the same car with the same features, but with new set of colors. Consumers wanted the latest models, the latest colors. The same consumers who were buying a car once in 10 years, now buying a car every other year. The GM car sales went up by 5 times and GM became the most valuable company at that time. Now, ever since Tim Cook took over as the CEO of Apple, they've been doing the exact same thing. And guess what? Apple became one of the most valuable companies in the world. Very company which was focused on creating the most innovative products and bringing the Mac to the world, creating the first mouse in the world, creating the GUI, and even creating the first ever smartphone with a capacitive touchscreen panel, has now resorted to silly underhand tactics. A few years ago, Apple even accepted in court that they were decreasing the battery life on older model iPhones with their newer updates. Whenever a user would update to the latest iOS version, Apple would secretly drain the batteries much faster. An iPhone that would last an entire day on a single charge would now need 3 charges per day after updating their operating system. Apple went from being the most innovative company in the world to becoming a profiteering company. In 2023, Apple introduced a new privacy update. Now, according to the fine print of this update, Apple could spy on its users and collect all of their sensitive data from their photos to videos to every other information about the user. Of course, Apple never put it that way. But in their iOS 15 update, Apple added a clause where they would screen all your photos and videos on your mobile device, and if they found any content around child pornography, they would instantly flag that content and report it to the government. Now, you might say, what is wrong in that? They're doing a good thing, and I totally agree with you. But you know who else started out doing the exact same moral policing? The East India Company. In the 1600s, when the British East India Company arrived in India, all they wanted to do was trade. But then we all know what ended up happening for the next 300 years. Well, I'm not saying Apple is the modern day East India Company, but all I am saying is that when you give somebody too much control or leverage in a capitalistic world where their intentions are highly monetary, then things can go bad. And by the time you realize it, it's probably too late. And not just that, it's so so ironic that back in 2020, Apple was one of the very first companies that came out against Facebook tracking all of your data and said they respect your privacy. And they even gave all the Apple users the option of preventing tracking by showing them a do not track option. This resulted in a $600 billion loss for Facebook. But just 3 years after that, Apple started building their own ad network and then even started collecting the data of their own users in the name of moral policing. Turns out, Apple never really cared about users' privacy, and all they wanted was to capture some of Facebook's ad revenue. See, whenever anybody publishes an app on the Apple App Store, Apple takes a 30% cut in the revenue. But Facebook is a free app, and they only make money by selling slots to advertisers outside the app itself by giving these advertisers the users' data. So Apple never got a single penny from Facebook for over 10 years, and it turns out that Apple only wanted a share in their business. Apple is already showing ads on their Apple News, Apple Stocks, they're showing ads on Apple Maps, and even on Apple Books. So it turns out that Apple never really cared about your privacy, and all they cared about was making more money. And it's not just Facebook that got caught in Apple's money-making scheme. Even Epic Games and Netflix got involved. See, Epic Games, the creator of Fortnite, launched Project Liberty to bypass Apple's mandatory 30% commission on in-app purchases. Epic Games quietly updated the game to allow players to buy V-Bucks directly from their website at a big discount. Apple immediately banned Fortnite from the App Store, and Epic Games even retaliated with a massive antitrust lawsuit accusing Apple of running an illegal monopoly. And over the last decade, Apple never really focused on new products or product innovation. We can even say that the last innovative product from Apple was the Apple Watch, which was released way back in 2015. And everything after that is just a mediocre update of products that already existed. Now, a lot of Apple fanboys may jump in the comments to say, you're wrong, Apple Silicon is the best. Have you ever seen the performance of the M1 chip? Apple is miles ahead of its competitors like Qualcomm when it comes to silicon performance, which is all true, but I really wouldn't attribute all that success to Apple at all. In reality, the only advantage Apple has is their deep pockets. The biggest reason why Apple Silicon is better is simply because Apple is rich enough to pay TSMC to reserve their best wafers for them. Apple even makes sure that no other competitors get those chips. The only reason why Apple ends up topping the charts in smartphone processing benchmarks is because they pay TSMC lots of cash to stop them from selling the latest chips to Qualcomm, their biggest competitor. You will notice that whenever competitors finally get on the same node as Apple, they end up matching or even outperforming the Apple Silicon benchmarks. You can see this happening even now. Apple bought out all of TSMC's 3nm chips, so competitors like AMD and Qualcomm can't even get them. Even then, the A17 Pro is barely faster than their previous 4nm chips. It gets a lot hotter and is even more power hungry. Even with a node advantage, Apple still can't beat Qualcomm in graphics power. They know that if Qualcomm gets their hands on the 3nm silicon wafer, they are dead. But with Tim Cook stepping down as the Apple CEO last week and the VP and head of hardware engineering John Turner taking over as CEO, we might finally get to see Apple going to being a tech and products company instead of just being a gimmicky and marketing company like the last decade. That's it for me. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to smash that like button and hit the subscribe button for more such content. See you in the next video. Bye bye.